Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rahman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about this very important visit of the Prime Minister to attend the 50th meeting of the World Economic Forum that is being held in Davos. He was invited by the CEO and the chairperson of the World Economic Forum, Mr. Klaus Schwab. And now, because since this is such an important forum that the global leaders gather there and primarily they talk about all the issues regarding economy. So obviously President Trump is going to be there and most likely on the sidelines of this World Economic Forum summit, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Imran Khan, is going to meet Mr. Donald Trump also, and I'm sure a lot of important issues will be discussed. Other than that, obviously the whole media, you talk about the top CEOs of all the big companies, they gather there, they talk about investment opportunities, they explore the potential of each other, whether you talk about the companies or the countries or otherwise. So this is, I think, one of the biggest forums regarding investments and regarding economy. So over here, when we talk about Prime Minister Imran Khan, since he has reached there along with his finance minister, the overseas minister, along with his security advisor and a couple of other senior officials. So he'll be engaged there from the 21st of January till the 23rd of January. Normally this summit is always held during the last week or primarily the second last week of January every year. So this is pretty important and holds a lot of weightage also. We'll be talking about it, that what sort of areas will be discussed. And now Pakistani Prime Minister Mr. Imran Khan is primarily going to be talking about the strategy dialogue of Pakistan. What would be the strategy of Pakistan now from here onwards? What exactly are the areas? Where do we need to invest? Where we need to pull out the money? Where we need foreign investors? Where we need to support a domestic investor, I would say. And similarly, you also explore a lot of investment opportunities in other countries also. I happen to be in Davos a few times, and I remember, since this is one of the highest ski resorts in Europe, winter, and it's a beautiful place. And if you look at the overall ambience and the feel out there, you will see that all the top billionaires would gather there and would talk about the global issues, global economic and financial issues. So, as I said, this holds very important value. To talk about this and to throw light on the various perspectives and various areas, we have with us in our studio, let me introduce you to our panelists. On my right is Shakil Rami Saab, senior economist, so thank you very much. And we have with us Ahmed Hassan Mughal Saab, former president of Islamabad Chamber of Commerce and Industry, thank you very much. And we'll also be talking to Abid Hassan Saab, who is also a senior economist and one of the senior ambassadors in the World Trade Organization. So we'll be talking to him as well. But before I start, Rami Saab, just to put some ingredient before I start the conversation. World Economic Forum is a place where I still remember the first time when I went there, that was 2006 when President Musharraf was in power. And I still remember during those engagements, Pakistan really presented its case. That was the time right after the earthquake, I remember. And we ended up getting a lot of money from the Friends of Pakistan, as we say, and from a lot of other investors. I still remember the president told the global community that the area of the size of Switzerland practically has been destroyed inside Pakistan. So if you look at the overall, but still Pakistan came out of that. If you remember, so many pledges were given, loads of money was given. But a lot of promises were also made. At that time, more than $10 billion, I remember, they were pledged, they were like ready to invest. Later on, about a year later, we had this Islamic Economic Forum in Pakistan, if you remember. And I remember starting from the chairman of IMAR to the chairman of Orascom Telecom in Egypt, huge investors from Saudi Arabia. Nothing happened practically. Promises versus reality, sir, the difference between them. Your take.
Look, Faisal, first of all, in 2006, right after 2006 and from 2007 onward, Pakistan went through a worst crisis of the terrorism. If you remember, during 5 or 6 years, there were the terrible years for Pakistan. So you talk about the investment, even people were not ready to visit Pakistan. That was the worst period of our, you can say, the war on terror. So it really impacted Pakistan because security is a key area for our investors, because they want to see so what will be the supply line, so what would be the status of the security, and how they will be able to secure the benefit from their investment. One thing, and second thing, immediately from 2000 onward, we went through another very crisis, energy crisis. You remember, so Pakistan was going through the load shedding. According to the government statistics in Vision 2025 in 2015, so government pointed out that so Pakistan was losing $4 to $5 billion due to the energy crisis.
Every year.
Every year. So that was these two.
That's why primarily we lost all our market share.
So market share. These were the two real problems. So when we now we will be talking to the Prime Minister Imran Khan will be talking to the corporate sector and other people there. As you look at the schedule and the press release by the Foreign Office of Pakistan, he has three very important engagements. First, he will deliver a keynote speech at the special forum. Second, he will be there Pakistan strategy dialogue, where he will, that would be really important from the business point of view, because at that point he will be interacting with the corporate sectors and CEOs. So there he can pledge, he can talk about so what Pakistan is presenting, what Pakistan is not presenting. And good news is that the chairman of CPEC authority is also going with the Prime Minister. So he will also be presenting the CPEC there. So how the business community can benefit from the CPEC related infrastructure. Because when you look at investment, I just give you one example. Infrastructure is very important. You remember, so there was a huge trade war between US and China. And US put so many tariffs on the companies which are working in China. Despite this fact, so many American companies did not shift their business from China. Reason, because they could not find the compatible infrastructure in other countries. So they preferred to live there and face the music of the trade war. Although it's over now. And the third thing is a meeting with President Donald Trump. So that would be the very important. Because Pakistan is dreaming to connect to Central Asia through Afghanistan by using leverage of CPEC. But for that purpose, peace in Afghanistan is very important. So as we have the news and the people are talking about, and it's in the newspaper.
Temporary ceasefire for 10 days.
So there, we are expecting very soon as a agreement between Taliban and the US government. So that, in that context, it is very important.
A lot of people, a lot of analysts believe that there is a breakthrough that is the primary reason of the visit of Alice Wells in Pakistan.
So Alice Wells in Pakistan, yes. She is meeting so many people. Last week, I think she was in India.
She was in India and also Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka. So it has two dimensions. One is Afghanistan peace, and other dimension is the CPEC. Because if you remember his famous speech on CPEC, she was criticizing CPEC and BRI. And maybe they are looking something from there also. We don't have any news, but let's see so how the things unfold.
Also, there is a high probability that the CPAC and BRI would be discussed at large in this forum. Unfortunately, we haven't heard much during the previous years that any head of state has been there in Davos who has really worked hard on the real issues, core issues, and primarily come up with some sort of remedies and solutions for Pakistan. But it's good that Imran Khan Sahib is there. He's going to definitely the kind of aura he has, the kind of presence he has, he's going to make a lot of difference. Now, Mughal Sahib, since you are a very important part of the business community in Islamabad, now according to your own analysis, according to your own observation, how do you see things moving ahead now, sir, from here onwards? Because a lot of people make promises that it will come to Pakistan. I was very happy to see that Pakistan's name was #1 in the list of the most recommended tourist resorts or places in the world. So obviously we do have that kind of potential, but again, when we talk about the infrastructure, that seems to be the missing link. Over here, sir, where we really need to work hard and put our foot down and convince the world that look, this is Pakistan, this is what we are offering, and please come and witness, at least for once.
See, you quite rightly mentioned that there's a lot of potential in tourism, and as we've seen in all the different vloggers coming into Pakistan and being invited by different companies to give a good face of Pakistan, presenting a good face of Pakistan, that it's a really safe place to go through. And I talked to one of the ambassadors, and he told me that, I asked him that why don't you do a joint venture, because you are an expert in tourism as well. You earn billions of euros every year. But what the first thing he told me, that it's a very capital intensive industry at the moment. So you have to invest a lot. At the moment, you see, I had the opportunity to go to Gwadar as well last month, and it has a really beautiful beach. I even went to Ormara as well. So they've got really nice beaches over there. That's the center point between Gwadar and Karachi.
Yeah.
And but the problem is that there's no facilities. If you want to travel by road, the Makran Coastal Highway is really very beautiful, and it's very amazing, picturesque view over there as well. And people would be willing to go over there, but there's no facilities available. There are no hospitals.
Facilities,
Security as well.
and entertainment.
Of course.
Primarily, these are the three major areas,
Right.
But unfortunately, we're not working on those.
And I think it needs a lot of investment in that as well. And at the moment, the condition that our economy is, we are actually the government is doing firefighting at the moment, and they do not have extra money to put into these, although that will be giving them a lot of revenue from this industry as well. But the government does not have the capacity to invest in the infrastructure as well. I talked to, we got a presentation over there in Gwadar as well, and what I saw with my own eyes as well is that it will take at least 20 to 25 years for the whole city to develop. There's still a lot of requirements over there, and they're still working on it. And
that is primarily one area. What about the rest, sir? What about the economic zones we used to talk about? What about the other facilities that we had earlier promised?
That is, if you need to attract investment, you need to have these economic zones over there. At the moment, you see the cost of utilities going up every month. And how do you expect someone to come in and invest over there, and the cost of production being so high compared to the region, and you expect them to be producing over here as well as exporting to other countries as well? Although there's a lot of potential that you have in between Afghanistan, you have the access to Central Asia as well. But unless and until you are competitive, I don't think
you need to be among the top if you want to survive.
You need to be the most efficient.
Simple as that. Sir, we have been joined by Dr. Abid Hassan Saab. Dr. Saab, Assalamu alaikum ji.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum, Faisal. How are you?
I'm good, sir. Thank you so much for taking out your time and being a part of our show. We were talking about this very important 50th meeting of the World Economic Forum. Sir, the Prime Minister Imran Khan Saab is there. And now he's going to address various groups there as well, sir. And this is a regular yearly forum that is held in Davos. Now, my point is, sir, what difference can Imran Khan Saab make this year, sir, which earlier we were unable to do? Because it is believed that most likely he is going to meet the President of USA, Mr. Donald Trump, on the sidelines, plus a lot of other business communities, the CEOs, the top corporate, I would say, decision makers and all. How do you see this happening, sir, the next 3 days?
So, Faisal, yesterday I was watching a show, I think a live broadcast by the Prime Minister when he met the traders, and he was making a point about wastefulness in government expenditures, and he quoted about Qaid-e-Azam, that he was lavish with his own money, but, he made sure that every rupee the taxpayer that was, provided to him, he, made sure that there was wisely spent. And then he rattled off some numbers of how he's spending less than other prime ministers for trips to New York and Davos and this, that, and the other. So the thing about all this is, look, I mean, I'm glad that this government is looking at this issue of cost effectiveness of public expenditures. But they're looking at this thing with a bit of a soft, let's say, walking on eggshell. On Davos, whether it is he's spending only $200,000 and not $1 million, which Nawaz Sharif or Zardari did, even that $200,000 one has to really question. So, we've had, from Musharraf to Shaukat Aziz to Gilani to Zardari to Nawaz Sharif to everybody for 20 years going there. So they all go there, they have photo op with Bill Gates and they have photo op with Jeff Bezos. But then Jeff Bezos goes and invests $1 billion in India, as he announced yesterday, and there's nothing out here, So this kind of really, looking at this expenditure and even saying, do I really need to go? Okay, if he has to meet Trump, that's a different story.
Abid Saab, I happened to travel to Davos once with President Musharraf and once with Prime Minister Shaukat Aziz. I remember, sir, there were a lot of promises made, and that was a time when our economy was booming. I still remember it was around 8, 8.4, then it went up to, around that bracket, and everything seemed very hunky-dory. And so many promises were made, and people were talking about investment in the construction side, tourism, oil and gas, energy, you name it. And eventually nothing happened, sir. Now,
Yeah.
was
So
it
that's why I'm saying,
something
Faisal.
wrong on our part that we did not follow it up?
No.
How does it
No,
work out there,
that's
sir?
not the issue, Faisal. Faisal, that's not the issue. Point is, investors all over the globe, they're not dumb people, right? And they have a huge staff of hundreds and thousands of people on their staff. I'm talking of big companies or even venture capital companies, not venture capital, I mean these private equity companies, they have a lot of people working and then day in, day out, identifying opportunities in the 190 members of the United Nations and figuring out which country will give them the highest return for their money, right? So it's not like you make some fancy speeches. I mean, who could do? Shaukat Aziz was great at these kind of things. But the issue is they don't need speeches at Davos for them to get attracted to Pakistan. They'll do it if they think there's money to be made, if there's stability of policies, if there's security of investment, and so on and so forth. Now, for example, the other day, I have someone I know who's at a C level in one of these giant tech firms. So I asked him, he's based out of San Francisco. I asked him, I said, why are you not in Pakistan? He says, look, for one very simple reason. We're not sure that our staff won't get dragged into court for some picture on their website or will not get, jailed for some video on their site. And he said, in India, we have 1,000 people and the CEO of my firm in India makes $1 million. So all he was saying was, look, then this is one of the largest companies in the world. They're not in Pakistan. So we have to do a lot of soul searching and not get trapped into this Davos, I would say, crap. Unless there's a reason for Trump, you go wherever you have to go to meet Trump if you have to be. Then when you come to, and you said you went with Shaukat, point is when you go to these events and there is a Pakistan event, right? Who are the people there? Half the people are people on the delegation. The other half are representatives of firms who are already in Pakistan. So you will call up British American Tobacco, you will call up Unilever, and you will beg their CEO here, can you please ask your whatever director for Asia to attend this from London? They are not people coming there who one would say are really coming there to get a sense of should they be in Pakistan, should they invest? No. Most 99.9% of people, as I said, when you earlier said, all these CEOs are going to come, there are CEOs who are already in Pakistan. So they are forced by their Pakistani companies, affiliates here. So they're nice, okay, fine, let's go to this event because the Pakistani Prime Minister is coming and, we have already in Pakistan. So I think coming back, look, it's always nice to show your flag in such
Point
events.
is, sir, during those 3 days or 3 nights, the ambassador along with the foreign office, obviously the prime minister is there, say all are geared up just for 3 days, sir, unfortunately. So if you stay with us, let me put another question to Ramesh Saab here. Now, Ramesh Saab, since he's pointed out some very important realities, and he has said that these are the issues. It's not about photo sessions and all. So talking about Bill Gates, since I've seen him there, people like Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt, I've seen them there myself. They were the global ambassadors. So you'll find all sorts of people there. You'll be surprised to see people who are like billionaires doing different having talks, having various sort of seminars there, telling about the potential of their companies, about their countries and all. So one thing which I would like to mention here. So the Prime Minister, I still remember when this budget was announced, said that, we'll be able to export, or we have set a target of $4 billion of IT software export. I really would love to know, because this is what the name of the game is. Applications, great applications as the future. Look at the Indians, look at so many Americans, look at people from Scandinavia for that matter. Everybody is working on that. And then look at Google, look at so many other, Amazon for that matter. These are, the worth of these companies, and look at their the stock market shares and everything. What I'm saying is, sir, don't you think that we need to diversify now? I mean, we can't, we talk about that Pakistan is agro-based. For God's sake, shortage of sugar, shortage of wheat. It's not about bad governance, it's about stupidity. There's a difference, sir. So how can those people manage such high stakes, those who can't even manage the wheat crisis or the sugar crisis in Pakistan? You think they'll be able to handle those billions and trillions of dollars so-called, which they want to, want other people to invest in Pakistan? Come on.
Before coming to your question, I just want to say one thing I usually say about the governance system in Pakistan. It's a borrowed governance system with a touch of elitism or the egoism. So you can't define it as a governance for the Pakistan. Now coming to your question, so we need to diversify. I think when I was a student in 90s, so we were talking about that.
Sir, we are still using the 16th century technology.
So we are still there. I just gave you 2 examples. It's good to go there.
A bull and a cart, and we are still,
it's good.
Look at the globe.
It's good to go there at the World Economic Forum. It's a good marketing place. But what you will market, that's
what are you selling? What's your strength?
What you are marketing there? Oratory, good speeches, photo ops. Then I agree with Abba Saab. There is no use to go there. That is a good forum. If you go there, you have something in your basket. I give you one example. How
Sir,
we are managing
may I just give you one example, sir, because we have got plenty of time, 2 people here. Sir, Zurich is one airport. During these days, you will see the most number of private jets parked there. And you'll see, okay, this is Mr. Bill Gates, this is Mr. So-and-so, this is Mr. XYZ, this is Mr. Ambani, that's Mr. Mittal. All these top-notch businessmen, the real backbone of the private sector of India will be present there. I still remember there was this huge building. I have never seen a Panaflex that big. The only thing it said was, the shining India. It seemed as if the entire forum was about India. And versus that, and they had the topmost speakers, versus a standee 4 feet by 2 feet, that also was so twisted you couldn't even see what was written there. And I told the then president, sir, this is what it, and our Export Promotion Bureau chairman really got annoyed with me on this also, because I really wanted to show him the right picture.
So, look, we are not managing what we have in our hand. So what about the talk about the future? Just I give you example from the BR, Belt and Road Initiative, and the CPEC. World Bank conducted a study and they released this year. So they calculated if BRI and CPEC related projects is implemented. So Pakistan will get a real benefit of a increase of 8% in real income of people, and there would be the welfare effect of 5.37%. So these are the 2 things which this is the one bird we have in our hand, and we are just trying to look into the bush. So how we are treating the one bird which we have in our hand? You look, you will see the politics around the CPEC, which can transfer your economy. You are not talking about that, but you are running after one place to other places. People will think about one thing you have in your hand on your terms and conditions. You are unable to benefit from there. So what you talk about the new investment with new companies. So this is the common sense questions. One thing. Second thing, we talk about the transit trade through after the CPEC. We are not able to, we say like that the 10% of China wants the 10% of your trade through the Pakistan, the transit trade. If you talk about the 10%.
Are you talking about the total Chinese trade?
It's yes, $4 trillion. From $4 trillion, if they come the 10%, you keep it 5%, $4 trillion. It comes to $200 billion. And you are not able to do the $60 billion trade. You cannot handle the $60 billion trade, but you are talking about a $200 billion trade. The thing is that you are not looking at,
do not have the capacity. That's the problem.
You are not looking at the issue what we need to done. We have a brilliant opportunity in our hand. We need to focus on that. We are not focusing on the special economic zones. Now this government has started now with the coming of Asad Umar. He is trying to change, and we believe that maybe the Assam Bajwa may be bringing some more imputers to the system. So the key for the industrialization in the second phase. In second phase, we are talking about 3 things specifically in the CPEC: industrialization, agriculture, social. For industrialization,
Explain social to me, sir. What exactly
social
is that
development,
supposed to mean?
education, health,
Okay.
training,
Social issues primarily.
social issues, the skill development. We are unable to develop the human capital, or even the skilled labor. So Chinese are coming to invest in the skill development for the second phase.
I mean, we are not ready to do anything. Why don't
So
you just
that's what
give
I'm
your
saying, that the whole case
entire
is,
system to
so
someone,
whole case is, in industrialization is the key for the second phase. So what are we doing with that?
Sir, Mughal Saab, whenever you look at the economic indicators or the reports issued by the World Economic Forum, unfortunately, sir, in most of the cases, we are practically somewhere around the bottom 15% in most of the cases. Talking about the most, I would say, their favorite passports and then they are the worst passports, we were equivalent to Somalia at number 4th worst passports. A lot of African countries were a lot better than Pakistan. Iraq and Afghanistan were worse than Pakistan. This is what the impression, you pick up a report and you go through, and why would you say, oh my God, 5th worst passport? That means, there's something wrong. Okay, how long does it take to get the electricity connection? How long does it take to get a mobile? What are the hiccups? What are the bureaucratic hurdles? And there is a long list. And then you would just keep the file away or maybe put it in the burner because it's not worth it. Though the claims are huge, promises are even bigger, reality is totally different. So,
We've been hearing for a long time, ease of doing business, it has improved.
one window operation, sir.
One window operation, yes. Every time you mention it in your program, one window operation. That's what we've been hearing for a long time. You've been hearing before me. I was not in the business
for the
before.
last 20 years, I swear.
Almost, yes.
And recently we have heard that window has been made somewhere in the Prime Minister house, I swear.
I give you
in the Secretariat, if
I
I'm not
give you
wrong.
one example.
Please.
And during the second government of People's Party, so our minister was in UAE. He was asking, he was telling the people, no, businessmen, come to the Pakistan. We have the one window operation. We are opening one window operation. So then, one investor stood up and said, "Sir, my application is with that window.
There you go.
So please solve it."
So these are the kind of issues that we need. If you need someone to go into, it has to be, we have to make it easier for people to come in and invest. Not even for the foreign investor, but for the local investor as well. If you go to Turkey, you put in your documents, I think probably takes 48 hours and you can start doing business over there. Compared with the UK as well. When I was studying over there, I finished my studies, I opened up a company. I gave the documents, I just signed a couple of documents, gave it to my accountant. In a couple of weeks, I got a company registered over there. So it's so much easier opening a business. The first thing you need is an entity to work over there. I cannot just go into another country and start doing business. You need to have an entity, an organization that you're representing.
No matter when you talk about the incentives offered by the government of Pakistan, I think they are the best in the world. 100% equity, you name it. Your investment is not only safe, it's rather insured in dollars term. I mean, there's so many other incentives, but still,
I think the biggest hurdle.
If the money is coming in the capital market.
The biggest hurdle is the process that you have to go through. Even if you go and try, or I would go and try to register a company over there, it will take me at least probably like a month. Normally, if I don't, use the back channels or, I don't know people over there.
There is a back channel, then there is a
yes, of course.
better channel,
But
that works well.
How do you expect someone from abroad to come in who doesn't know the people, who doesn't know probably the norms over here?
People who were ready to invest here, sir, I'm so sorry to say, they went back. They were so disappointed because everybody had such high expectations from the current government, and unfortunately, they have miserably failed on various accounts. So let me go back to our friend Abid Saab. Abid Saab, now, since we do understand these are all SOPs, but sir, the real deal, you're talking about the strength. I mean, obviously, what we have learned in management or regarding governance is that you need to eliminate your weaknesses, sir, and you need to capitalize on your strengths. Well, looking at the weaknesses which we have, sir, and there is a long list, but if you could identify a few and you could come up with some sort of reasonable remedies for those, sir. Dr. Saab?
Yeah, Faisal, that's the trillion-dollar question which, every government for the last 30 years has been asking or not asking, and people have. I think a couple of things. One is that this government must try to narrow its focus to a few things. You can't uh, try to fix everything at the same time. And so whether you want to fix the tsunami trees or a billion trees or tax systems and, one window operations or whatnot, I think they just need to focus on two or three things and get runs on their board, and on those things, so it may be tax may be one thing. I think the tax whole reform is so flawed. Uh, and rather than, instead of, for example, focusing on lowering the mistrust and distrust between the taxpayer and tax office, FBR, they've kind of tried to, use strong arm tactics to increase the tax base. Now, surely that has to be increased. But there are, as they say, many ways to skin the cat, and the way they are trying, they've got it wrong. So coming back, so I think, I don't know what those two, three things is. If I was to shortlist, I would say tax is one, where they really need to make it as easy as possible to, pay your taxes. If it means
Dr.
shutting
Saab, do you
down,
feel
FDR,
a
then
tax
shut it down.
shortfall, sir? This year,
So,
do you
I
feel
don't
a
worry
tax
about
shortfall?
For example, look, I'm not about to. If you ask me okay, this year my tax is going up because I have to pay for a stupid trip to Davos, then why should I pay that tax? Or if you ask me that, look, please pay me taxes because I can't close down steel mill or I can't, reduce my losses in discos or PIA, why should I pay that tax? So this government must send a very, very clear signal that, look, we are making sure that all these trillions of rupees of taxes that are wasted, I don't care if they have shut down the Prime Minister house. That's like small change. The big expenditure, the big, the black holes, this government has done nothing. So when you come talk about this, increase the tax base, or increase taxes, I'm dead against that. I'd much rather that they do something about these black holes.
Dr. Saab, a lot of analysts are believing and still believe that in the coming days, because June isn't that far, we're almost at the end of January, and it seems that most likely there'll be more taxes imposed. This is the general...
So what I'm saying is that you asked me, what are the two, three things? I think one is this tax system. I think they really need to get it right. Second is these black holes that we have inherited from 1971. Mr. Bhutto's nationalization. These black holes must be, kind of, shut down, or done something, because otherwise, why should people pay taxes, for a very incompetent and corrupt bureaucracy, for these black holes? So that's item number two.
This is a very important, sir, point.
Yeah.
Because when you are paying taxes on your hard-earned money, sir, and you get nothing in return, nothing at all, no medical services, no free schooling, no proper infrastructure,
thing,
no security, no electricity, no utility. What for then?
Somebody made this point, I think, about this, CPEC and One Belt, One Road initiative. I think, it is a game changer. It could be a game changer if we really get serious. For all their faults, and I'm no fan of the Sharif dynasty, but they were very passionate about infrastructure, and they were great, super great project managers. They may have made money on it, but they got it right. Now, on CPEC, I think this government has to get its act together. The other day, somebody in the Chinese embassy told me...
Sir, when you talk about the money which has been given to the provinces and the amount they have spent on infrastructure, sir, 13%, I guess, in Balochistan or something of that sort, and a similar percentage in other provinces. They do not even have the infrastructure and the capacity to do it and to deliver.
Yeah. So, I think, for example, I was told, China has refused to give visas to 3 ministers who are critical of CPEC.
Good.
All these people, jokers that are on some cabinet, occupying important infrastructure positions. China has said, look, we don't want to deal with these guys. So whether it is this railway, I mean, ML1 is probably will be a game changer for Pakistan, and only the Chinese can do it. I mean, but they're not the way. I mean, the railway minister and all have been talking against the Chinese. So all I'm saying is, I think the third thing is CPEC. This government must get its act together and figure out a way that these Chinese infrastructure projects are implemented on time.
All right,
That the Chinese investors, remember, China is sitting on several $1 trillion worth of foreign assets, right?
But
And
sir,
there's
the
very
point is
little
that that's
Chinese-
their money, that's their hard-earned money. They've worked hard during the last 50 years or so, sir, and they've done it. I mean, do we need our finger to be held by the Chinese 24/7, sir, for the next 2,000 years till we are able to even, have the capability to
think
drill a proper well and
I'm
get some
sure
water out?
if Chinese will, if the conditions are right, if they're treated well, if they are, there are fewer hassles of doing
All right.
business in this country, you'll easily get a few billion dollars in
All right.
FDI, real FDI, not this fake FDI that this government is touting. They were saying, $1 billion came in this year, FDI. But you know what that $1 billion was? There was a tax on these telecom companies. It was not like $1 billion coming in some factories. It was a tax
Yeah, in some
for
investment. yeah,
renewal of
reform, yeah.
license, and that is now being touted as a FDI.
You need to have some good financial journalists who can actually grill all those who are concerned. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, for that. Now, sir, since we hardly left with any time, sir, let's go for the closing remarks. Now, how to go forward now regarding this particular summit, sir?
I think if we as a nation, or especially our government, can learn, speak less, work more. There is no speeches cannot turn around your economy. It doesn't help in the economic.
Do you think, sir, when you give a very great speech and you present Pakistan the way it should be, I'm not saying they're amazing things, they're brilliant ideas, but sir, the ground reality is also very important.
Sir, listen, one more thing, Faisal Saab. When you gave a great speech about your country, I am Pakistani, I will be emotional. But the investor is not a Pakistani and he does not have the emotion. He need where he can invest and how his investment will be secure. As you're talking about the CPEC, look, when CPEC negotiation started, it was way back in Akram Zaki Saab, maybe God bless him.
Yes.
Once I interviewed him, so when the CPEC started, he said CPEC
Way back.
He said the CPEC was in their design when we gave them the air corridor. The first indication on that was the Shahra from Silk Route. KKH. One thing, and second thing, we can practical example we can see when Musharraf went to Beijing in 2003. If you look at the Beijing Declaration, all the elements of CPEC are there, including the FTA.
That was the time of Hu Jintao.
2003 Beijing Declaration. And once I spoke to Riaz Khan Saab, the former foreign secretary, about about the CPEC, because he was a secretary and he was ambassador at that time there, and he is one of the leading expert on China.
Correct.
So he said when the talk started, Chinese wanted to invest more than $200 billion in Pakistan
At that time.
But our security situation did not allow them.
They must have waited, obviously.
So waited,
money, yeah.
they waited and they came forward, and still they want to. But what we are doing, we are touting on them. We are just reading a few Western media propaganda articles and just trying to say them about that. So what is our caliber? We are our problem is we
need to open our eyes, sir. We need to understand what's going on.
We are
for God's sake,
we are not
don't
expert
be those
on
koala
China.
bears in
We
the
are
Australian
not expert on
bushfires.
China. We are a liberal economist. We are a liberal democrat, and China have an entirely different mindset and different governance
Yeah,
system.
it's a different
and
ball
that
game,
is
sir.
a
They have a
real
different-
battle between the West and China, because last 200 years, Western countries believe that nobody can develop or can give a better idea of development.
So when you talk about development, I mean AI, artificial intelligence is the name of the game.
China challenged
Chinese will
that.
surpass them in the
China
coming
challenged
few years.
their governance system. China challenged their development system, everything, social system. So that's why Westerns are against them. And we are just trying to, that's story on the Western media, so we must pick it up.
Sir, I'll just give you one example. The global market share of business, the total strength or the input you have in the global financial system. $120 trillion USA, $67 trillion China. All right, sir? And the percentage, obviously, you can well imagine, 3.5% of the total global market share, India. More than 1% Taiwan. Countries like Singapore, we were at, with the population of almost 25 crore, 250 million people, 0.13%. That's where we stand, sir.
Taiwan and Hong Kong, China claims both countries.
Well, anyways, the point is that what I'm saying is this is the reality.
True.
So, I mean, when you look at these figures, these digits, you can well imagine the strengths and the weaknesses or the capabilities of any country, sir. Don't you think that really represents the true picture of Pakistan?
It does. It does. I think one of the biggest factors that has destroyed this economy and this country is the bureaucracy. That has been the biggest problem in this country. They do not want to work themselves, and they won't let anyone else work. And like Dr. Abid also mentioned that the government should focus on a few things. They have 5 years in government. They had 5-year rule. They should have started step by step. They want to fix everything in a short span of time, and that is the reason why
Recipe
it has been
for disaster.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, Mughal Sahab, thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you, sir. And that's all we have for this hour. I'll see you, inshallah, tomorrow. And we'll talk more about Davos visit and the summit. And inshallah, we'll see you again. Till then, take care. Good afternoon.